On a previous episode, we stabilized this quilt and I added borders on each side. And now we're ready to do the wonderful design work. And I'm going to start by showing you how I'm going to work on one of these cabins. I wanted to make some little logs as I was stabilizing this cabin. So I'm coming over like that. The logs around the door are going to be vertical, and I'm going to put in some little what do you call those? Hold the hinges, that's it. Coming down across the bottom, and then I'm going to come up, and as I come up here, I'm going to put in a doorknob. It's not going to be really fancy, I'm just doing a swirl like that. Come across like that, and over, and then this log is going to be vertical, and then I'll stitch in the ditch here. Stitch in the ditch here. And in this area, I want to divide it just one time. You could put some little logs in it, but I have a lot of cabins to do. Come across like this. I'm going to do the window right now while I'm here. And come back, finish my stitch in the ditch. Follow the seam, and I'm dividing this into thirds. There's one of my seams over to the window, back down, and across here. And I'll come back up and finish this little area with those vertical logs. I'm not opposed at all to stitching in a seam twice, and then this one will be stitched all the way across. Now I have all my logs, and rather than stop and start, I'm following the seam up like this, where I will stabilize the roof. So I'm outlining it, as well as the chimney. Back down, and here I'll come down and go back, and then across. Now in this little area, I want to do just some horizontal lines. So I'll follow the side over, and I'm using the foot width as my guide. As I come across, the edge of my foot is right next to the last seam that I stitched. And that will keep those nice and even. There we go. And then I want to come back over here, and on this little roof, I'm putting some little half circles. Come back with the half circles, sort of the little shells, just putting some texture into the roof. And they will get a little closer together and a little smaller as I come toward the top of the roof. So I'm giving it a little dimension, getting a few more here, and they're getting a little smaller. Maybe nobody would notice that but me, but I certainly will pay attention to something that's dimensional. Okay, and then our cabin's finished except for the light area, which I will do when I put on the other thread, and I will show you that at that time. Next, I'm going to work on the trees, and I love trees. Years ago, I decided that no quilt that I ever did would have the same quilting on each of the trees. So I actually wrote this little book, LT's Trees and Other Things, so that I'd have lots of ideas as I was doing those trees. So let's do a couple of those. Okay, in the tree blocks, I am again stitching in the ditch. And you really need to use a ruler here for sure, because you've got all these diagonals. You see how I go around? I have green thread on, so I'm staying in the green, on the green side just slightly. And I can already see how well that just really secures this block by stabilizing that. But while I'm doing the tree, I'm going to go ahead and put the design in while I have the green thread on, and then it will be already done. Save me time, save you time. And I am just following my little book here. I'm just going to keep turning the pages, and this one just comes over like this, and then you just sort of put your little shells at the bottom of them. Just go right into the next part. Shell, shell, and the next part. I'm using the regulated stitch. I'm on about 12 stitches to the inch. And the last part. And I might even put something at the top like that, and then I'll find my way down, just like a stem, and that will complete my stitch in the ditch for that area. Now that I have the cabin blocks and the tree blocks finished, I want to go into these light and dark areas on the actual log cabin. And of course I'm going to be doing different designs on those. So I'm excited to show you what I've decided to do. This is the area similar to this dark area, and I will be doing so many of these on the quilt. I thought it would be good to show you. And I followed the piecework here, just going along the seams like that, and then just fitting yourself into all of these areas. And if you want to do a kind of a fork at the end, no problem, especially when you reach over into these areas over here. You can see how easily those can just kind of fork into. And then you come up with your double stem, and you just do the other side. Reaching out into those areas that are in the corners. Just like that. I wanted to do a design in here, and so I am doing like a fern. I'm putting the feathers in the lighter areas. So I wanted this to be pretty bold. And you'll see how you can just reach out into whatever areas you need to. I'm sewing in constant. You see how I reach out into that area? I don't have to go all the way back to the beginning, to the bottom. I just reach into the areas that I need to, like that. And then I'll come up with my stem and do the other side. There's a lot of areas to do, but they go very quickly. Very smooth. Just a little bit of a curl toward the end. Just a gentle curve. Kind of a forked end there. Coming back. And you can cross over yourself. And it's done. I put a Greek key in the large Ohio star here, and around that I decided to just emphasize this area, and I wanted to do that with a lighter thread, so I chose a lighter blue, and I'm going to come in. This is a very simple technique, but very effective. Start right here. And I'm coming all the way out to both sides. And I'm just going to be consistent with the size of these until I get closer into the middle, but I'm keeping them very close together. And as I get into the point, they will get smaller. And I think that'll give it a dimensional look. There we go. The landscape area has been stabilized. I did that in the last episode, and I'm excited to make this water look like water. It just is a blue blob right now, and the mountains, and put some sky in here. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. I think that this is a lake in here. It looks like one to me, so I'm going to chalk just very lightly a line there, and chalk a line there, because I want to put kind of dimensional quilting in that. And then as I come off the mountain, I'm going to just make some distinctions here as I come down. And I live in a very mountainous area, so I know how jagged some of them can be. Just putting some marks on it like that, and I'll use that thread on that one and probably on this one. And this could still have some snow up there. So on the lake, and I won't do the whole thing, but I want to show you how you can do that dimensionally. A good thing to do with water is this. It's kind of just a horizontal. Well, I'm doing it vertically because it's sideways. I can put a few little swirls in it, but it's a meandering that's just kind of horizontal. Now when I hit my line there, then I want to get a little bit closer together. I want to not be as spaced out as I was at the bottom. And then as I hit my other line, which is right now, I'm going to really make sure that these are close together and get tinier here toward the shore. And you won't see that whole effect until it's hanging up on a wall or it's on a bed. But you can see I'm much closer together with my quilting as I get closer to the shore. And then I can just come over here and I can follow some of my lines here on the mountain. Really, whatever you do there is going to be fine. It's just going to make some quilting lines there and just kind of set that off. You can study mountains too. And I could come back with some white thread too at the top of this one, as I think this one's more in the distance. So that's all I want to do on that with that color of thread. In this light area through here, where I have a tree block on each side of it, and I have stitched in a ditch between those to separate them, I really want this to be a focal point. So I'm going to put a long arm feather in here, and it will go fast. It's just going to have a stem in it, and I will put the stems in as I go. There's a teardrop, another teardrop here, and I'll take off on my curve like that, and I want to reach clear out into the recesses of this log cabin. And to do these feathers, I simply do like a teardrop, follow the stem back, and then put a stem inside. You see I reach out into those areas and come right back to the stem. Some of them are long and some of them are shorter, depending on where they fall in that piecework. Clear out like that. This one will be a little shorter, not a problem. And now they'll start turning so that they're more straight. Out into that area. And then finally, right there, come right back down. Now I'm going to make sure that I have, about 1/4 of an inch stem in there, and do the other side. As I come down, you could do whatever kind of feather you wanted. This one just goes really fast for me and looks really pretty. I think it's a good idea that we know how to do a lot of different kinds of feathers, that we don't just do the same feather all the time. When I come back, I want to make sure I don't go over into that stem area. And then again, following my curve out here, and I'll come over and complete this side. If you make sure that you just come back and follow the stem, then you will preserve your direction. You won't get mixed up. Follow the stem as you come back. And they all don't look the same. They're not all perfect, perfectly the same size, because they're going in to fit the area that needs to be filled in. And again, the stem, so we come down like that, the feather at the end. That stem inside is going to make it look somewhat like some thread painting. The thread that I go back and put inside of the feathers. Adding a lot more quilting in there. See how I come right into those square areas. A short one in here, and then I can see I need 2 more. Your eyes can kind of tell you, they look ahead, believe it or not, to what you need to do. There we go. I stabilized the center area, this landscape area, and left it because I really was thinking about it as I was doing the quilt. And I'm excited to show you what I'm going to do on the water. I really want to make that blue blob look like water, and the mountains and the sky, and also quilt that cute little bear. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. The sky on this landscape portion is what I want to put it's kind of a meandering, but it has some swirls in it. So I want to show you what I'm going to do there. And I will use the very same technique above the cabins as well. I just do some swirls and I come out. It's kind of half circles too. And I really like that for a sky. And it will get a little bit tighter as I get down toward the horizon. Not much. You know, you could actually put feathers in the sky if you wanted to. Skies don't have to look like they're clouds and, you know, look like they're real. You can pretty much do anything in the sky that your little heart desires. Again, just a little bit tighter down here. A little smaller design. Half circle, half circle, half circle, swirl. This will look nice above the cabin as well, and kind of tie the two together as far as the sky. But I'll do something different around the trees. This half of this square, you can see this is a square in the log cabin, and this light area is kind of a triangle area, and I'm going to put 2 feathered curls in here. And it might help if you wanted to make a mark down through the middle. If I just kind of visualize it there, I can see it. And just come out here like this, come in tight, and I start putting almost like little teardrops on there. And then you see I slanted it, reaching out into the areas that I need to reach out. These are going to be long, and then I come in tight, and I start putting almost like little teardrops on there. And then you see I slanted it, reaching out into the areas that I need to reach out. Reach out. These are going to be long. These are going to be long. reach out, and then another little short one. And this one will just like come halfway and then down. Then I come over this direction, come around again. Now I'll start slanting them. Following that stem back, that stem is curved. A short one here, reaching out over here like that, into that odd area, coming back like this, and then reaching out, and I'm finished. Around the trees in the lighter area, on the bottom of them, I'm doing kind of that landscape meandering, which is just elongated. I'm doing them vertically as I'm doing them, but they will be, because the quilt is mounted sideways, they will look horizontal. And then just around the tree, I'm just coming in and putting in some meandering. And they'll just all be the same. I thought about putting some little animals and all kinds of fun stuff in there. And then I realized the quilt was king size, and I really just want to get it on my bed. So I opted not to. This is just kind of quite a large meandering for me. Kind of fun to do. Making sure I'm going into those little areas. And you see I just go around the corners and then I'm back into this elongated landscape meandering. And that completes that area and it looks nice. Around the trees in the lighter area, on the bottom of them, I'm doing kind of that landscape meandering, which is just elongated. I'm doing them vertically as I'm doing them, but they will be, because the quilt is mounted sideways, they will look horizontal. And then just around the tree, I'm just coming in and putting in some meandering. And they'll just all be the same. I thought about putting some little animals and all kinds of fun stuff in there. And then I realized the quilt was king size, and I really just want to get it on my bed. So I opted not to. This is just kind of quite a large meandering for me. Kind of fun to do. Making sure I'm going into those little areas. And you see I just go around the corners and then I'm back into this elongated landscape meandering. And that completes that area and it looks nice. Wow, look, take a look at this. I am so excited, like you are, when I get a quilt finished and hang it up. It's just so beautiful to look at, and you feel so proud of the work that you've been able to do. And this one was so big, it took me forever. But the sides, we were able to expand the quilt, and that was easy to do. I love every single tree. I'm going to enjoy looking at each of those. And the middle, in the landscape in the middle, is going to be kind of a scene where you can just kind of dream away. The cabins, because I live in a log cabin, are special. And then the light and dark areas, and I love the feathers that I put in there. So this was a great project. I had a lot of fun with it.